For latest updates and short audio clips, follow us on Instagram, Reading the Author.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast Reading the Author, a unique show where we read authors' mind and not their book. Meanwhile, I truly believe and pray that you and your families are completely safe and healthy as well. Guys, today we have Khyrunnisa A ma'am with us, and she is the author of altogether 15 books. So thank you so much ma'am for coming on our show. It is my honor to be able to host you today.
Thank you very much. I'm also equally happy to be here with you and talk to you.
Likewise, ma'am. So, ma'am, before we get into the podcast and know much more about all those 15 books and everything, I would request you to please introduce yourself so that our listeners can know much more about you, and do let us know how you started this writing journey.
All right. So my name is Khyrunnisa A. I have been writing books from 2010. That is when my first novel, House at Butterfingers, was published. And subsequently, it's almost like a book a year. There have been years when there haven't been any books, but there have been years where there have been 2 books. So it's like, from 2010 to 2024, there are now 15 books. Mm-hmm. So I have written 13 books for children, older children, and 2 books for adults, Tongue in Cheek, The Funny Side of Life, and Chuckle Mary Spin, Us in the US, which is a humorous travelogue. So about my journey as a writer, well, I didn't really want to become a writer. That was not my ambition. I wanted to become a teacher, and that's what I became. I taught in a college. I was associate professor of English in All Saints College, Thiruvananthapuram. And but writing has always been special for me because reading is my passion. So I grew up in a very large family, 8 of us, and I am the youngest of 8. So you have 7 siblings. There are 6 sisters and 1 brother, and there's a lot of reading happening. Every one of us love to read. So yeah, I'm growing up in a house where reading is very important, and I think that is probably what helped me become a writer. I always liked writing, but wanting to become a writer wasn't really on my wish list. But it so happened that when, just like that, I sent an entry for a competition for adult writers of children's fiction. It was an all India competition. And when I won the prize there, at that time I was teaching, and I was totally focused on my lectures, teaching, college, students, that was very important. But when I won a prize for this, one thing led to the other, and I started writing, on the side. And then Tinkle asked me to create a regular character for their magazine, and I created Butterfingers. Butterfingers became a hugely popular series in Tinkle. And then I approached Penguin with the stories, wondering whether they would publish it as a collection of short stories. Penguin responded, which was very good, and wanted a novel. And that is how I wrote my first novel, House at Butterfingers, a cricket-based, fun novel. And when that became successful, the publishers and I decided on a series. And the rest is history, and that's how I became a writer.
Okay, ma'am. So, ma'am, as we know that, all the books are performing really well. There have been reviews from The Hindu, Indian Express, Mr. Shashi Tharoor, VVH Lakshman sir, and many people have given the reviews. But as you know that after listening to this podcast, most of our listeners would just love to read the books. So when it comes to talking from a new reader's perspective, what they can expect from your books, can you share some insights?
What they can expect from my books?
Yes, ma'am.
See, my books. One thing that is very that drives my books is humor. My books are humorous. I've always enjoyed humor. I love humor, and growing up in a large family, it really makes you resort to humor if you have to hold your own. When there are so many older siblings and they can sit on your head, so you really have to use humor to make a mark, to retort, to retaliate. All these skills were honed when I was growing up. So somehow when I was writing, I always wrote humorous ones. So when you look at readers, I think now they have come to expect humor from me. In fact, there are several stories of mine in anthologies. I think about 15 anthologies have stories of mine, and there is one anthology for older people in which my story is serious. And a reader told me, "Ma'am, this is not you." So they are identifying me as a humorous writer. Now, I don't want to be typecast, but I also realize that when readers expect something from you, you have to give it to them. And it is like some actors, who are known for their tragic roles or their comic roles, and when they try something else, the viewers don't quite want it. So in my case, I don't know, but this was a response from one person, though other people did tell me that they liked the stories. But again, there is this feeling that it's not me. That identification of me as a writer who writes humorously is very much there. So I think readers can expect works which are humorous from me.
Okay. So as we ask this question to most of the authors, like when we talk about the personal branding, so what I can feel that your personal brand, or let's say from a couple of years, if now anybody sees okay, it's a new book by Khyrunnisa ma'am, then I guess they can get a similar thought, okay, that must be a humorous book, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah. So they kind of take it for granted that it will be humorous. See, look at my latest book, the book that has just come out, The Couch Potato Who Said Ouch, and funny stories. That is what it is titled, The Couch Potato Who Said Ouch and Other Funny Stories. That is the book that came out just a week back. So you see, even the title says funny stories. And the title itself is funny. The Couch Potato Who Said Ouch. See, nobody is going to expect it to be a collection of very tragic stories or fantastic stories or horror stories or supernatural stories. So that is how it is. And yes, they expect and they're getting it. Humor.
Okay. So as of now, ma'am, like, not talking from the perspective, like, you have written altogether 15 books. So sir, that is something which is very rare. Like, we have been in conversation with more than 220 authors as of now, and very few of them falls into that category. So when it comes to you, what's upcoming? Like, are you writing as of now something? Because, last week only your book has been published. This, The Couch Potato Who Said Ouch. So are you on this, continuous marathon series? Okay, take back to back, I have to write something. And if you are writing something, then what's upcoming as of now?
It's not that there is a compulsion in me to write, but what happens is that your publishers also want you to write something else. See, last year, the book that came out last year is a Butterfingers book. It was comic. See, among the 8 books that have come out, there are 4 collections of, 4 novels and 3 collections of short stories. So my publisher said, let's try a novel, a comic. And that is what came out last year. It's a 100-page comic book, and I was happy because, see, when you write different genres, it makes it, there's a kind of fulfillment. You're trying your hand at different kinds of writing. So that came out. And now we are thinking of another comic. Not thinking, already started. So that will be the next book that's coming. Then there is another book that I have been asked to write. So there are 2 books at least that I'm going to work on. And there is also Tongue-in-Cheek, which became hugely popular. And readers have been asking me for Tongue-in-Cheek 2. And we might well have that. So there are these 3 books that, the Tongue-in-Cheek 2, we have not fully decided on it. But these 2 books are definitely on the cards.
Okay. And... this is one of the questions which I wanted to ask you from the very beginning when I saw your first Instagram profile. Like, you are someone who have cracked the whole game of how to get published by a traditional publisher. Like, your books are being published by, Penguin, Westland, Scholastics, all of them are there. And when it comes to, like, as of now, what I can feel, the main urge that why these other publishing platforms like Kindle, direct publication, self-publishers, and have been involved because the traditional publishers are not something which everyone can get up to, right? So
Correct. It's very difficult.
what are those things which you would suggest to the new readers, new writers who can just, who are
Mm.
just willing to just go with this traditional publishers? Because you have cracked the game, so you can
It's
share.
Yeah, I have cracked the game in the sense when I joined this, book writing. When I started writing,
Mhm.
it just so happened that what I sent it as a submission to
Okay.
Penguin.
Okay.
That is my stories that I was telling you about. The stories had appeared in comic strip form in Tinkle, but the longer version, copyright of those stories was with me.
Okay.
So I always had it in my mind that I could get them published as a collection. And of course, I thought of Puffin, the children's imprint of Penguin, and that is where I sent them. I was just hoping they would respond. If they respond, it means they've accepted. If they don't accept, they don't respond. They don't even send you a rejection slip. What I hear is that they get about 1,000 submissions a day. So you know how difficult it is. But this was in 2009. My book came out in 2010. Fortunately, the editor saw something that she felt would click, and that is how she got back to me. So once the first book came out, then it becomes easy. And then the second book, we thought of a series because the first book was successful. And when other publishers know that you are writing and your books are good, it's easier to approach them, when your name is known to them. But for
Definitely.
people who are just starting, I think these days I didn't have an agent or anything. It was very direct. I just made a submission and it happened. But now I think people are going through agents. They get agents.
Literary agents, yeah.
Agents take your submission to publishers. That is the job of the agent. So if writers can get a good agent who will, of course, find out if your book is good enough to be taken, because the agent's credibility is also at stake, right? He can't take a substandard book to a publisher. They're not going to look at it and they will say, why are you bringing this book to me? So you have to, first of all, my advice to writers is to see that what you are writing is good. It is mistake free. Very, very important. Because what I've heard is publishers, the moment they see a mistake, even if it is in the letter where they are submitting the manuscript, they're not going to look at your manuscript. They are so particular about grammatical English or whatever language you are writing in. So that is very, very important. And they should have something unique to tell. And they should maybe give it to some others to read and get a feedback, not get dejected when somebody says some critical comments about it, but use everything in order to make their work better. And I really think it's very difficult to get traditional publishers to accept your writing, but this is one way in which they can do it, because and if you go to all their websites, they tell you how to submit the manuscript. I think they can try sending it to all the publishers and see how it is. But I think maybe they could use an agent. And I've also heard of self-publishing, of self-published authors who have done so well that then the traditional publisher takes their book. So that is something else that they could do. Now there are people who are very canny with marketing, who know how to market their books. Marketing on your own, if it is your own book and you have published it by yourself, maybe you have control over it and you can do what you can to see that the book is read by a huge number of readers. So if that happens, then the publishers notice this. See, they're always aware of what's happening, and you can approach the publisher. So these are the ways in which they can crack this. But ultimately, it boils down to the quality of your writing. If your writing is really good, I don't think a publisher will reject it.
So true, definitely. So as of now, like, what's your current writing schedule? Like every day you devote some particular hours to your writing, or it's like random that you get some thought and you just jot it down on your phone, on your diary, and after that you elaborate? How does it goes with you?
No, I'm not a very organized writer.
Okay.
Much of my writing happens in my head because I carry the story around in my head. I have to get it right in my head first before I sit down and write. And I don't have a regular schedule, like, morning, I have to write from this time to this time, afternoon, evening, nothing like that. I have written all my books under contract. So I know when I should submit the manuscript. And therefore, I am aware of the deadline. And I plan according to that. And even sitting at a particular place, I sit at one place because I need to sit there because that is the desktop. I like to work at my desktop. I have a laptop, but I somehow feel comfortable sitting at my desktop, which is on the table, which is cluttered. I don't know whether clutter inspires me, but I do that. And I write whenever I feel like writing, when I get time. But as I told you, once I have got the story in my head, I sit down and start writing. It is then very focused. And as I'm writing, I make changes. That happens. You can ask any author. While you're writing, your story goes in a different direction. I don't know how that happens, but it happens.
Definitely. Okay. So, as we have talked about your book, about your upcoming journey and everything, now let's get back to your personal life. Like, there must be a lot of moment which you tag as the happiest moment in your life. And if you can share any one of them with us, then that would be really great.
With respect to my writing, you mean?
You can just share in terms of your personal or in writing as well. Both we can just put.
So many incidents happen that very special incident. I cannot, offhand think of anything that stands out for me. Getting the mail from the editor that she's interested in my manuscript. That was a very special moment for me because I seriously wasn't sure. I've heard so much about rejections, and that the fact that the first publisher I sent the stories to accepted it, and that was Penguin, was a very special moment for me. That was, I would say that was the special moment in my writing career, because after that, books getting published, and then now there are 15 books. So you're excited about the book, but the excitement of the first book is very, very different. And yes, one special moment I should tell you, which is very, very special for me, is when I spoke to the Nawab of Pataudi. Nawab of Pataudi sent a letter to me. My publishers had sent him a copy of my first book, House at Butterfingers. And he actually sent me a personal letter. And that was, I just couldn't believe it. When I got this letter with his name, there was a crest, and I was thinking, my goodness, from where is this letter? How can it be from the Nawab of Pataudi? This happened in 2010. My book came out, I think, in July. This letter was in December or something, 2010. And the following year, he passed away, 2011. Anyway, 2010, when I got this letter and I saw that it was a personal letter from him about how much he enjoyed my book. See, he was my childhood hero. When I was small, Pataudi was the captain, and how everybody, we all enjoyed, and I love cricket. So naturally, he was an idol. And now if you say Nawab of Pataudi, people will ask, who? Saif Ali Khan's father? And I feel very sad when I hear that. I think Saif Ali Khan should be regarded as Nawab of Pataudi's son.
So true. True.
Yeah. But that was a special moment for me. Yes.
Okay. So when let's get back to the time when you heard that tomorrow your book will be released, right? And everybody will be able to judge it, read it, and they can just evaluate on the basis of your thoughts what you have written in the book. So what was going on that particular eve? Like, were you feeling excited, relaxed, or you just marked them some milestones? Okay, these many people know me. My book has to be sold out these many copies. What was going on in the mind at that time?
I was just excited. See, I when it is your first book, you really don't know how it all works, right? You only know that your book is coming out. So I was excited, very excited. This is my first book, House at Butterfingers. And I had a lot of faith in the book because it is a sports-based book. And there are very few sports-based children's novels. And it's a cricket-based book. And it's a fun novel. So there's a combination of all of these three ingredients. No? There is cricket, there is fun, there is realism, all that is there. So I was pinning a lot of hopes on this book, hoping it will do well. And we had a very good launch here, where Shashi Tharoor launched the book, which was a great thing for me. I was so happy when he agreed to launch the book. When he saw the book, he said, "Oh, cricket. It's about cricket. Yes, I will launch the book," he said. And after that, it was back and forth between his office and us to get the date and the time and all that. But at the launch, which was a packed, there was a packed hall, and there were so many copies sold out that day. But more than that, what he said he enjoyed the book so much. He said he doesn't read all the books that he releases because he just doesn't have the time for it. But he said, "This book I read and I enjoyed it, and I wished I had written it myself." So that was it was so encouraging for me to hear that. And then I realized, okay, so this book can make a mark. And it became successful because within a month it went into a reprint.
Something quite commendable, because that is for your first book. If that happens, then that definitely quite a dream coming true moment. So how was the experience of TEDx? Like I saw on your profile in last year you had to just, I guess, TEDx MEC was there, right?
Yeah, that was an engineering college in Kochi that had invited me for this TEDx. And my experience was, it was good. Only thing is, the thing about TEDx is that's my first experience. Now I've been invited for another TEDx talk. The thing is that the camera is on you. All the cameras are on you. And the audience you don't see the audience at all. Just dark there. So you have to speak. And you don't have any, you can't take the help of any notes or anything. It has to be from your head. It has to come spontaneously. And I was a little worried, though I have been a lecturer, a professor, and I have faced any number of students, and I have given talks, audience, all that is there. But here you are, you don't even have anything to hold on to. So you are there on stage with the spotlight on you, and there's a whole group sitting there, and you don't even know whether they are responding because you cannot see them. So when they laugh, they're audible. That encourages you, but otherwise you can't even see them. And also you're conscious of the time. It has to be within, I think, 18 minutes. So that is also something you have to be careful about. Yeah, so it's not very easy to do a TED talk, but I was happy with it. Only thing is, after when I saw it, I thought, oh my goodness, I used my hands a lot, wave them about a lot. I shouldn't do that. Yeah.
So, ma'am, probably my last question to this podcast is, like, after listening to this podcast, many people will just explore writing, or they must start writing, or they will be holding their first draft in their hand and the laptop in their diary. So what would be your advice for them?
For them, yes. What I would ask them to do is, writing cannot happen unless you're a reader. So I would advise them to continue to read, because reading is what hones your writing skills. So what I would advise them to do is to, if they are going to write it, they could be writing fiction, they could be writing non-fiction, they could be writing, there are so many genres that they could attempt. So what I would say for a first-time writer is, try your hand at different things. Sometimes you might think you're good as a short story writer, but you might be able to write a novel well, because that's what happened to me. I was not thinking of writing a novel at all. But Penguin got back to me. They said, we like your stories, but we don't want short stories. We want a novel from you. And so when the offer is coming from there, you can't say no, and that to an offer from Penguin, Puffin. True. I wrote this novel, and then I realized I can write a novel. I have talked about the theory of writing a novel to my students, but the actual practice is a different thing, when you're writing. So what I would say is, you try your hand at what you think you are best at, but also try your hand at something else. Maybe when you're doing that, you will be good at it. And also think of something, of a really good idea, work on it, and try to look at things in a different way, because nobody wants a similar kind of stories. Imitation may be the best form of flattery, but even if you imitate a lot of writers, don't try to write like them. Develop your own unique style. And I would also like to tell them that writing is hard work, very, very hard work. So you have to sit on your seat and write, and not be discouraged if they are rejected, if the manuscript is rejected, because somewhere it's going to be accepted if it is quality writing. I would just like to wish them all the best.
Okay, so that's all for today, guys. I hope you must have enjoyed this lovely and inspiring conversation with Khyrunnisa ma'am. And if you do, then do follow our podcast, Reading the Author, available on all the leading podcast platforms. Don't forget to buy and read the book. You can just go on Amazon and search Khyrunnisa A, or you can just type Khyrunnisa books. You will get all the books. Just give them a read, share with your friends, family, and whomever you want to share with. Thank you so much, ma'am, for coming on our show. It was truly a grateful experience to have you on my show today.
Thank you very much. I too enjoyed talking to you, and goodbye.